Chapter 1001. Looking at the eyes of the members of the Guardian Pavilion, David suddenly seemed to know what he was talking about, and then looked at Sonia and Gullinger, who were still satisfied, and hurriedly shouted at the members of the Guardian Pavilion, "Hey, not what you think, not what you think. The member of the Guardian Pavilion has long since disappeared. How can you two talk nonsense?" David's head was stunned for a while, and he only realized it now. What Sonia and Gullinger said just now was too easy to misunderstand when others heard it. "What are we talking about?" Sonia and Gullinger also looked at David dumbfounded. "Hey, don't say it, Pavilion Master Zhao has something to do with me, I'll go over there." David sighed and turned to look for Zhao Waoqi. He knew that these guys from the Dharma Protector Pavilion would definitely be talking about him behind his back. "Linger, what did we say?" Sonia watched David leave, but didn't react. "I didn't say anything, it seemed like I said something that was very comfortable last night, and I didn't say anything." Gullinger didn't understand either. But soon the two of them were stunned, and then their faces turned red. The two of them stayed in the room with David all night, alone, what could they do? And the two of them are still in front of others, saying that they were comfortable last night, which must be misunderstood. Who would have thought that they were cultivating last night? Sonia and Gullinger ran back to the room shyly, and they probably didn't dare to come out to meet people. David went to the hall of the Guardian Pavilion and found that Zhao Waoqi was waiting for him, and there was another person sitting beside Zhao Waoqi, who was Zhu Zishan, the leader of the Kyoto Martial Arts Alliance. David saw that Zhu Zishan was also there, and knew that it must be because of the trial. After all, the trial was organized by the Martial Arts Alliance. He beat Guo Wei and almost disfigured Long Xiao. As the leader of the alliance, Zhu Ji, it is impossible not to find the mountain. "Mr. Chen, I wish the leader said that I have something to talk about with you." Seeing David coming, Zhao Waoqi hurriedly stood up and said, "I wish the ally." David nodded towards Zhu Zishan. Zhu Zishan sat on the chair with a slight forehead, which was regarded as a return gift. David looked at Zhu Zishan's aloof appearance, his heart burst into flames, he grabbed a chair and sat down. The actions of these people in the Kyoto Martial Arts Alliance have long made David ashamed. "David, as an instructor of the Dharma Protector Pavilion, it is your honor to be able to give you a chance to try. You should be extremely rare. I didn't expect you to break the rules, not only killing the Xian Yuan family and the Thunder Gate. The people who beat up Long Xiao and Guo Wei, are you not taking our martial arts alliance in your eyes?" Zhu Zishan looked at David, his obsidian-like eyes exuded a cold and fierce light, which brought an infinite sense of oppression. It's just that David didn't care, and the corner of his mouth raised slightly. "You martial arts alliance still have the face to say the word rules? In this trial, you are partial to the Long family and condone other sects and families to trouble me, I will hit them." "Humph, at such a young age, so arrogant." Zhu Zishan snorted coldly, then slapped his palm on the table, and the cold breath on his body pressed directly towards David. "Whoa, whoa!" David felt like a mountain was pressing down on him, and the chair under him suddenly shattered. David gritted his teeth and held on to this breath, and the cold sweat on his forehead instantly flowed out. Zhu Zishan's strength is still above that of Guo Wei, and David's current strength is not enough to resist Zhu Zishan. "I wish the alliance leader, if you have something to say, you are open to Mr. Chen in the Protector Pavilion. If I report to Mr. Shi, you can't explain it, right?" Seeing that David couldn't take it anymore, Zhao Waoqi hurriedly threatened Zhu Zishan. Chapter 1002. Hearing Zhao Wuji say this, Zhu Zishan took back his breath and looked at David coldly. "David, for the sake of Mr. Shi, I can spare you this time, but you are in the tomb of the ancient tomb. The painting I got from the book must be handed over." "I got it. Why should I give it to you? If you have the ability, kill me today. I can't give you that painting." David knew the value of that painting, how could it be given to Zhu Zishan? "Humph, you are also worthy of a map of 90,000 miles of mountains and rivers. If something like that is in your hands, it's a waste. Zhu Zishan snorted angrily, now you hand over the 90,000 mile map of mountains and rivers, I can let go of what happened in the past, and I can help you suppress the matter of you killing the eldest masters of the Xianyuan family and the Pilaman. If you want me to give you the map of 90,000 miles of mountains and rivers, stop dreaming, unless you kill me now and take it from me. David looked at Zhu Zishan with a sneer. This guy obviously came here today on the 90,000 mile mountain and river map. Zhu Zishan's face was ashen, he gritted his teeth and said fiercely, don't think I dare not kill you. A terrifying aura emanated from Zhu Zishan's body again. I wish the alliance leader, if you do it in the Dharma Protector Pavilion, would you like me to call Mr. Shi? Zhao Waoqi took out his cell phone, ready to make a call. Zhu Zishan glared at Zhao Wuji, and then said angrily, let's wait and see. Zhu Zishan left angrily. After Zhu Zishan left, Zhao Wuji breathed a sigh of relief, his back was already soaked. Where does he have Mr. Shi's phone number? If Zhu Zishan really does it, Zhao Waoqi can't do anything about it. Mr. Chen, it seems that you are going to leave the capital temporarily and find a place to hide for a while. These guys from the Martial Arts Alliance can do anything. Although Mr. Shi is behind you to support you, it is inevitable that they will not secretly attack you. Start? Zhao Waoqi knew that it would be very dangerous for David to stay in Kyoto. I also have this intention. I plan to leave the capital for a period of time and cultivate for a while. David has not practiced properly in this period of time. Now that he has a map of 90,000 miles of mountains and rivers, he does not need to worry about the lack of spiritual energy, so he must hurry up to practice and rescue his mother from the Long family as soon as possible. It's not too late. I'll send someone to drive you out of the city, Mr. Chen. There are people from the Protectorate Pavilion, and those people don't dare to make a bad move. If they dare to kill the official people, they can't explain it. Zhao Waoqi planned to send someone to directly send David and Sonia out of the capital city. But at this moment, a member of Shadowless Villa was covered in blood and hurried over. Mr. Chen, Mr. Chen. Then the members of Shadowless Villa shouted in the Dharma Protector Pavilion. David hurriedly flashed out of the hall, and after seeing the member of the Shadowless Mountain Villa covered in scars, David frowned and said, what happened? Mr. Chen, Pilaman and Xuanyuan's family jointly attacked Wuying Mountain Villa. This time, we made a ruthless attack. Many of us died. After the member of Shadowless Villa finished speaking, he immediately fainted. When David heard this, a monstrous killing intent erupted from his body, and then he looked at Zhao Wuji and said, Pavilion Zhao, help me take care of him. After David finished speaking, his figure disappeared in a flash, and he hurried towards Wuying Villa. Zhao Waoqi wanted to say something, but he didn't have time, and David disappeared. Zhao Waoqi could only send someone to take the members of Wuying Mountain Villa away for treatment, and hurried to tell Sonia and Gulinger. Chapter 1003. Inside the Shadowless Villa. There are corpses and blood everywhere, and the bloody smell spreads hundreds of meters. The two teams of Xuanyuan's family and Perak's gate surrounded Wuying Mountain Villa. At this moment, there are only a dozen or so people around Zhao Liguo and Zhao Chuang, and the huge Shadowless Villa is about to be destroyed. Zhao Liguo, you and I have known each other for decades, but it's a pity that you are with the wrong person. The owner of your dignified Shadowless Villa actually followed the boy David. Don't blame us today. Xuanyuan held a long sword and glared at Zhao Liguo. Xuanyuan became furious when he knew that his son was killed by David and died tragically in the ancient tomb. However, David's people were in the Guardian Pavilion, and their Xianyuan family did not dare to openly go to the Guardian Pavilion to get people, not to mention that there was Mr. Shi behind David. However, the revenge of killing his son had to be avenged. Xuanyuan found the Martial Arts Alliance and wanted Zhu Zishan to be the master. Cheng Zhishang, the master of Perak Gate, had the same idea. His only son, Cheng Kun, was killed by David. Cheng Zhishang found the martial arts alliance right away, and now they all want an explanation. The old fox Zhu Zishan, after first appeasing the two families, found David and asked for a map of 90,000 miles of mountains and rivers, but after being flatly rejected by David, he directly encouraged the two families to attack Wuying Mountain Villa. Chapter 1004. Zhu Zishan knew that David would never sit idly by when Wuying Villa was killed. The sects and families in Kyoto were all under the control of Zhu Zishan. Wuying Villa and David were so close, and Zhu Zishan would not know. Suan Yuanyan, stop talking nonsense. If you want to kill or slash, just come here, I'm afraid you won't succeed. Zhao Liguo looked at each other, not afraid at all. Zhao Liguo, you are not afraid of death, isn't your son also afraid? Now you only need to call that David and coax him here, and we can spare your life. Cheng Zhishang's face was gloomy and he said, what we want to kill is only David, and we don't want your father and son's lives. Don't think about it, I won't call, and even if I trick Mr. Chen, you guys are definitely not opponents. Zhao Liguo has absolute confidence in David's strength. Humph, with the strength of my two families, I still can't kill a David. You think of David too high. Cheng Zhishang snorted coldly. Now, neither Cheng Zhishang nor Xian Yuanyan have murdered Zhao Liguo, just waiting for David to come, they want to kill David. Even if Mr. Shi said something before, but they didn't care about it. If they didn't get revenge for killing their son, how could the two of them still mix in the capital, and how could they mix in the martial arts world? What's more, there is a martial arts alliance behind them. Zhu Zishan promised them that he would help the two to block Mr. Shi's anger and intercede for the two of them. It's not that I think too much of Mr. Chen, it's that UBA5TARDS are too incompetent. Zhao Liguo narrowed his eyes slightly. Damn, say one more word. Cheng Zhishang was furious, and the atmosphere at the scene became more tense. I saw Cheng Zhishang's chi burst out, and a tyrannical aura condensed on his palm. I'll kill you first, and let you see who is the waste. Cheng Zhishang shouted angrily, and then slapped Zhao Liguo with his palm. Xian Yuanyan on the side wanted to stop him, but he didn't stop him at all. Come on! Although Zhao Liguo was injured at the moment, he was not afraid at all, and greeted him with a palm. Boom! There was a huge collision sound, and the surrounding air became distorted. At this moment, Zhao Liguo's figure flew out, and a mouthful of blood spurted out. Zhao Liguo's strength was originally stronger than this Cheng Zhishang, but Zhao Liguo is now seriously injured, his energy is almost exhausted, how can he resist Cheng Zhishang's palm? Dad, Zhao Chuang hurriedly stepped forward to help Zhao Liguo up, and then looked at Cheng Zhishang with anger in his eyes. Chapter 1005. Bringing out the dragon-slaying sword, David is about to start a killing spree. Boom! With a loud bang, golden rays of light instantly exploded in the crowd. At this moment, David is like a judge in H3LL, using the dragon-slaying sword in his hand to judge the life and death of these people in front of him. Whether it was the Xian Yuan family or the people from the Thunder Gate, they were all under the sword's edge, and they became shredded meat. Everyone from the two families was frightened, and kept running out. No matter how Cheng Zhishang and Suan Yuanyan shouted, it would be of no avail. Scared, these people are really scared. David, you are courting death. Cheng Zhishang watched his disciples die tragically one by one and directly blocked David. David ignored Cheng Zhishang, and swung the dragon-slaying sword in his hand, and the huge sword chi was wrapped in flaming flames and came directly towards Cheng Zhishang. Cheng Zhishang was startled, and hurriedly rolled on the spot to avoid the blow, but at this moment, David's sword cut out a deep ravine on the ground. The slightly embarrassed Cheng Zhishang got up immediately, but just got up, David's figure was already in front of him. Cheng Zhishang was shocked and his figure suddenly retreated, but it was still too late. David slapped the past, directly swiping Cheng Hishang's body in the air several times, and half of his face was sunken. Cheng Hishang's body fell heavily to the ground, and this scene made Suan Yuanyan look stupid. Although Cheng Hishang's strength is slightly worse than his own, it is not too much worse. Now that Cheng Hishang is in front of David, he has no power to fight back. In this way, Suan Yuanyan could never be David's opponent. This son is too evil, how long has it been, and his strength has become so terrifying. Suan Yuanyan began to feel a little fear in his heart. Not long ago, he played against David and let David escape. At that time, David was not his opponent at all. But now Xuan Yuanyan is not sure if he can pass the 3 moves under David. Cheng Hishang climbed up with difficulty, half of his face sunken, and he became like a ghost, very terrifying. Suan Yuanyan, this kid is too powerful, let's join forces. Cheng Hishang asked Suan Yuanyan to join forces against David. Suan Yuanyan moved, but he quickly retreated towards the outside of the shadowless villa. He knew that his life was important. As for joining forces with Cheng Hishang, he would not do such a stupid thing. Cheng Hishang saw that Suan Yuanyan turned his head and ran away. He was a fool and was stunned on the spot. Suan Yuanyan, you are paralyzed. Cheng Hishang reacted and yelled at Suan Yuanyan. But soon, Cheng Hishang couldn't scold, because the dragon-slaying sword in David's hand was slashed with one sword. The terrifying sword chi shocked Cheng Hishang all over. When he turned his head, he found that the flickering sword chi was already in front of him, and he couldn't dodge if he wanted to. This sword cut off Cheng Hishang's head directly, and the huge impact made Cheng Hishang's head fly out instantly. Gilyalu. The head actually rolled down to the feet of Suan Yuanyan, who was running away, which shocked Suan Yuanyan. Looking at Cheng Hishang's head, Xuan Yuanyan's speed instantly increased a bit. A terrifying atmosphere spread, many disciples of Perak sect fled in all directions, and even their sect master was beheaded by a sword. What use would they be left behind? Want to go? David looked at the direction Suan Yuanyan fled, and jumped up. Along the way, David killed anyone he saw. Anyway, these people were from the Pilaman and Suan Yuan's family, they should all be damned. In an instant, there were corpses everywhere on the hillside on the side of Shadowless Villa, and the 2 great sect families were killed by David and fled. Brother, then David has caught up. Suan Yuanrong glanced back, and when he saw David, who was like a killing god, was chasing after him, he was almost scared to pee. He didn't speak just now. Watching David's slaughter and Cheng Hishang's head, Xuan Yuanrong's legs softened. Chapter 1006. Xuan Yuanyan turned his head and saw David slaughtered all the way. Many of the Xuan Yuan family's children were almost slaughtered. He suddenly stopped and said loudly, all the Xuan Yuan family's children are not allowed to run away, stay with me. Come down and kill this David. Suan Yuanyan shouted angrily, causing many of the Xuan Yuan family's children to stop, especially some elder-level Wuzong masters, all surrounding Suan Yuanyan. I saw David's dragon-slaying sword in his hand, and the sword's energy was like a storm, beheading many of the Xuan Yuan family's children under the sword. David's whole body was extremely dazzling with golden rays of light, with scales all over his body, and he was wearing it like armor. Stepping on the corpse, David was like a god of death, and he was in front of Xuan Yuanyan in an instant. Looking at David's appearance, Suan Yuanyan's face was very ugly. Even though he was surrounded by several Wuzong guards, Xuan Yuanyan was still frightened. But at this time he can't run anymore, he can only fight to the death. Taking a deep breath, holding back the fear in his heart, Xuan Yuanyan said coldly, David, you kill my son, kill my Xuan Yuan family children, today I will fight you to the death. David's face was cold, and he said slowly, you are not worthy of a decisive battle with me, I can kill you with just one sword. While speaking, the breath on David's body erupted again, and the endless spiritual power instantly blew a hurricane. After feeling the breath on David's body, Xuan Yuanyan and the other Xuan Yuan disciples were shocked. David, we can actually talk. Xuan Yuanyan looked at David's tyrannical aura and wanted to compromise. Talking about your mother. David cursed angrily and slashed out with his sword. Xuan Yuanyan felt this terrifying sword energy, and did not dare to resist, and hurriedly avoided it. But even though Xuan Yuanyan tried his best to dodge, the huge sword energy still slashed Xuan Yuanyan's body out of wounds, and blood flowed out. Looking at the wounds on his body, Xuan Yuanyan frowned tightly. David, you. What kind of strength are you? Why is this sword so powerful? Xuan Yuanyan looked at David in shock. In Xuan Yuanyan's view, David's strength was about to catch up with the strength of Wuzong's peak. But David looked at the fact that he was just entering Wuzong for the first time. Xuan Yuanyan has never seen a leapfrog murderer. Many talented warriors can challenge opponents 1 or 2 levels higher than him, but like David, it is very rare to directly cross a big realm. Xuan Yuanyan had never seen it before. You don't need to worry about my strength, as long as you know, you can see your son right away. David said with a cold expression. Humph, you don't have to be too arrogant, do you think I only have these strengths? Xuan Yuanyan snorted coldly. What kind of skill do you have, just use it. David looked at Xuan Yuanyan coldly, his eyes were like looking at a dying person. Looking at David's eyes, Xuan Yuanyan knew that he had no way out, and after retreating, he shouted, Arrangement. Hearing Xuan Yuanyan's order, the 4 martial sects of Xuan Yuan's family took out a dagger at the same time and slammed it on the ground, and then 4 rays of light never shot out of the dagger. Along with the 4 rays of light, an air of majesty quickly spread out. The terrifying coercion contained endless killing intent, and soon formed a huge magic circle, wrapping David and Xuan Yuanyan in it. David looked at the formation that gradually formed, and the corners of his mouth raised in disdain. The last time Xuan Yuanyan dealt with him, he had used such a magic circle, and now he still wanted to do it again. Don't you have something new? The last time your magic circle didn't help me, this time it's useless to me. David looked at Xuan Yuanyan and sneered. Chapter 1007. Xuan Yuanyan's eyes narrowed, you underestimate this formation too much. The last time I let you escape because of my carelessness, I will never let you go this time. Really, then I really want to try it. David raised his eyebrows. Then I will fulfill you. After Xuan Yuanyan finished speaking, he shouted, Sacrificial formation. As Xuan Yuanyan's voice fell, the 4 Xuan Yuan families Wuzong glanced at each other, and then suddenly grabbed the dagger on the ground, only to see the 4 Wuzong's energy, which was quickly passing, was absorbed by the formation. And all the energy absorbed by the formation went to Xuan Yuanyan's body, and this formation seemed to have become a part of Xuan Yuanyan's body. Soon, the 4 Xuan Yuan clans Wuzong fell to the ground, their bodies seemed to have been taken from their flesh and blood and became a mummified corpse. Ha ha ha, I want to see if you are crazy now. Xuan Yuanyan laughed loudly, and then slapped it out with a palm, and a terrifying breath burst out. Boom! The huge force directly bombarded David's body. David was like a kite with a broken string, and was instantly knocked out. The golden scales on David's body actually fell a lot under this palm. Humph, I said, in this formation, I am the master. Seeing David being slapped by himself, Xuan Yuanyan said very proudly. He has now absorbed the energy of the 4 Wuzongs, and now Xuan Yuanyan's strength is comparable to the peak of Wuzong. Master! David got up slowly, the scales that fell on his body began to grow again, and the golden light on his body was still shining brightly. Seeing that David was all right, Xuan Yuanyan was instantly shocked. You, how could you still stand up? Xuan Yuanyan's face changed greatly. His palm, but the strength of the 5 Wuzongs, had not yet killed David. I'll show you what the real master is. David raised the dragon-slaying sword high, and the flames rising from the dragon-slaying sword made the radius of hundreds of meters become extremely hot. Seeing the aura erupting from David's body, Xuan Yuanyan secretly let out a bad cry, and had an ominous premonition in his heart. I don't believe it anymore. Xuan Yuanyan raised his hands high, and the entire array began to shake violently. Then, in the mid-air of the array, black clouds continued to gather, and lightning flashed from time to time in the dark clouds. Lightning strikes! Xuan Yuanyan shouted loudly. This day's lightning strike was the strongest strike of this array. But after this blow, the magic circle will disappear instantly. If this blow could not kill David, then Xuan Yuanyan would not have the slightest trump card and support. A bolt of lightning flashed across the air, and then it slashed directly towards David. Look at me breaking your magic circle. The dragon-slaying sword in David's hand was raised high, and the thunder struck directly on David's dragon-slaying sword. At this moment, David is like a god, guiding Tian Li with the dragon-slaying sword in his hand. Break! David's eyes widened, and he suddenly slashed with a sword. Boom! This sword, as if the thunder was rolling, the vast sword energy actually slashed directly to the black cloud in the air. Two huge forces collided together, emitting a dazzling light. After the rays of light dissipated, the black clouds in the mid-air had disappeared, and the magic circle shrouded in the surroundings had long since disappeared. How so? Xuan Yuanyan was shocked. This was the strongest blow of the magic circle, and this magic circle was left by their ancestors of the Xuan Yuan family. Xuan Yuanyan hurriedly looked towards the four short swords on the ground. Seeing this, Xuan Yuanyan's heart was instantly ashes. I saw that the four short swords had become fragmented, and it was impossible to form a magic circle. This time, Xuan Yuanyan was dumbfounded, completely dumbfounded. Chapter 1008. Hurry up and stop him! Xuan Yuanyan shouted loudly, and he himself took the opportunity to escape. But at this time, the Xuan Yuan family's many children, dead and wounded, have long since disappeared. There were originally several Wuzong guards by Xuan Yuanyan's side, but now the Xuan Yuan family's last trump card formation can't help David, the rest had already run away. Did you run away? The dragon-slaying sword in David's hand seemed to be infused with the power of thunder and lightning. On Xuan Yuanyan's way of escaping, thunder kept rolling down, blocking Xuan Yuanyan's escape. Your Xuan Yuan family is just like this. In the future, there will be no Xuan Yuan family in the Kyoto martial arts world. David looked at Xuan Yuanyan coldly, with strong killing intent flashing in his eyes. Xuan Yuanyan knew that he had no hope of escaping. Looking at the corpses all over the ground and the few people around him, he knew that the Xuan Yuan family was over. He never thought that a David who he used to look down on, would kill their two great sect families by himself today. David, I was wrong, I know I was wrong, our Xuan Yuan family is willing to obey your instructions and your dispatch in the future. Xuan Yuanyan bowed his head, and the dignified Xuan Yuan clan head was forced to bow his head to a young man in his early 20s. At this moment, what kind of face, what kind of reputation, is not important to Xuan Yuanyan. The important thing is life. Life is only once, and Xuan Yuanyan knows that as long as the green hills are kept, he will not worry about no firewood. It's just that David will give him a chance to live, then I don't know. I will kill you now, and I can also hold all the forces of your Xuan Yuan family. David's eyes were cold, he would not let Xuan Yuanyan go. David's voice fell, and the dragon-slaying sword in his hand was raised high. Looking at the dragon-slaying sword in David's hand, Xuan Yuanyan's eyes were full of fear, but he did not move. He had completely lost his confidence, because he knew that even if he avoided it, the result would still be the same. Stop! Just when David was about to kill Xuan Yuanyan with a sword, he suddenly shouted. Immediately afterwards, an extremely sharp energy attacked David. The dragon-slaying sword in David's hand swung vigorously, and a sword energy quickly greeted him. Boom! A violent explosion sounded, and the surrounding area instantly stirred up smoke and dust. David's body involuntarily took a few steps back, the hand holding the dragon sword was shaking slightly, and there was blood donation overflowing from the tiger's mouth. David's face became extremely dignified. The strength of the energy just now exceeded David's imagination. People who can emit such energy must at least have the strength of the peak of Wuzong. Who? David looked ahead cautiously. A person slowly walked out of the smoke, and when David saw the person coming, his face became even more solemn. This person is none other than Guo Wei, who was beaten up by David in the ancient tomb. David, we meet again. Guo Wei looked at David coldly, with murderous intent flashing in his eyes. Director Guo, save me, save me. Seeing Guo Wei appear, Xuan Yuanyan immediately shouted excitedly. When Guo Wei came, he knew that he was saved. Xuan Yuanrong was also very excited, and hurriedly stepped forward to support Xuan Yuanyan and walked towards Guo Wei. I am here, but I can't save you. David saw that Xuan Yuanyan and Xuan Yuanrong wanted to hide behind Guo Wei, and immediately lashed out with a sword. The sword Qi drew a gully on the ground and went directly towards Xuan Yuanyan. Seeing this, Xuan Yuanyan suddenly blocked Xuan Yuanrong behind him, jumped up with strength, and fell to Guo Wei's side. And that Xuan Yuanrong looked at his elder brother in shock. He never thought that Xuan Yuanyan would abandon himself when he was dying. Chapter 1009. They were brothers, and they were abandoned like that. Soon, the sword energy penetrated Xuan Yuanrong's body, directly splitting Xuan Yuanrong's body into two halves, and blood splattered everywhere. Seeing his brother's tragic state, Xuan Yuanyan didn't feel the slightest sadness, but hid behind Guo Wei. Director Guo, save me, please save me. Guo Wei ignored Xuan Yuanyan, but looked at David with a gloomy face. David, you dare to slaughter me in the martial arts circle of Kyoto in front of me, and you don't take me as an alliance director seriously already. After Guo Wei finished speaking, he slapped David with a palm, and smashed David with terrifying energy, directly knocking David out. The golden light on David's body instantly dimmed a lot, and blood began to flow from the corner of his mouth. Slowly getting up, David knew that there was still a certain distance between himself and Guo Wei. This Guo Wei deserved to be the peak of Wuzong's strength. Director Guo, kill him. This kid not only destroyed my Xuan Yuan family, but also destroyed the Perak Gate. If this son is left, it will be a big problem in the future. Xuan Yuanyan instigated Guo Wei to kill David. Shut up! Guo Wei glanced back at Xuan Yuanyan, so frightened that Xuan Yuanyan didn't dare to speak anymore. David, no matter the humiliation in the ancient tomb, I will find you to return it today. The clothes on Guo Wei's body began to move without wind, and then the whole person disappeared out of thin air. The next second, Guo Wei appeared above David's head. At this moment, Guo Wei turned into a ray of light, like a shining meteor, smashing down towards David ruthlessly. Cracks appeared on the ground under David's feet. As Guo Wei kept approaching, the pressure increased, and David's legs were forcibly pressed into the ground. Holy Light Fist! Guo Wei shouted, and the golden light became even more dazzling. Seeing this scene, Xuan Yuanyan's face suddenly showed excitement. Ha ha ha, David, this time you are dead. This is one of Director Guo's ultimate moves, the Holy Light Fist. No one can resist this punch. I want to watch you get smashed into flesh. Xuan Yuanyan couldn't even mention how happy he was at this time. David ignored him, but put away the dragon-slaying sword, and the spiritual power in his body continued to gather on his right fist. David's fist was also flickering with golden light, and it became more and more prosperous, as if suddenly there was another one. A little sun. Boom! David punched it out, and the same stream of light went towards Guo Wei. Immediately following a huge collision, the bright golden light eclipsed the sun in the sky. A shock wave, from top to bottom, still hit David fiercely. David's body was like a tree trunk, which was directly smashed into the ground, and a large pit with a diameter of nearly 5 meters appeared on the ground under David's feet. With this tight fist, the armor-like scales on David's body fell off and disappeared, and finally revealed strong muscles. David's muscles exude a faint golden light, which is emitted by David's body itself, without any spiritual force. At this moment, David's internal organs were constantly rolling, and blood was flowing out of his nose and mouth, and even blood was flowing out of his ears. "David, your body is stronger than I thought." Guo Wei stood with his hands behind his back, stood on the edge of the big pit, looked down at David, and said indifferently. David did not speak, but looked up at Guo Wei with scarlet eyes. The heart condensation art on the body is running frantically, constantly repairing the injured internal organs. "He'll give it to you." Guo Wei turned to look at Xian Yuanyan and said. Xian Yuanyan was overjoyed, and hurriedly followed Guo Wei to thank him. "Thank you, Director Guo." Chapter 1010. After speaking, Xian Yuanyan jumped into the big pit and looked at David coldly. "David, Feng Shui takes turns, is it my turn now?" After that, Xuan Yuanyan's body also began to flash golden light, and there was a mark on Xuan Yuanyan's eyebrows that kept flashing. "You turned out to be an evil repairer." David frowned. Xian Yuanyan remained silent and said with a sneer, "Today I will use my indestructible golden body to collide with you well, and then use all the energy in your body for my use." After speaking, Xian Yuanyan went directly to David. David's eyes narrowed, a golden light flashed across his palm, and he slapped it fiercely at Xuan Yuanyan. Although David was injured, he would never sit still. What's more, this Xian Yuanyan actually revealed the nature of an evil cultivator. He never expected that the head of the Xian Yuan family in the dignified capital of the martial arts world would be an evil cultivator, practicing evil exercises. What made David even more incomprehensible was that Guo Wei, the director of the Martial Arts Alliance, was standing not far away, and he didn't even care that Xian Yuanyan was an evil cultivator. You must know that at the beginning of the establishment of the Martial Arts Alliance, it was their mission to eliminate demons and defend the Dao, and to eliminate the evil cultivators in the martial arts world, but now it seems that this Martial Arts Alliance also seems to have an unspeakable secret. Xuan Yuanyan dodged David's palm, followed by a huge palm that slapped David's back fiercely, causing David to fall forward. Just as David got up, Xuan Yuanyan's blow struck again, this time Xuan Yuanyan kicked, causing the faint golden light on David's body to disappear instantly. "David, this is not a bad golden body, I will also, so I know where its weaknesses are." Seeing the golden light disappearing from David's body, Xian Yuanyan laughed proudly. Then Xuan Yuanyan pressed David's head with one hand, the mark on his forehead began to flash quickly, a huge suction entered David's body, and began to continuously absorb the spiritual power in David's body. Feeling the intrusion from the outside world, the concentration secret art in David's body began to run wildly. Just when Xuan Yuanyan was full of excitement, thinking that he could absorb David's energy, he suddenly found that the energy in his body was running towards David's body involuntarily. This time, Xian Yuanyan was a little panicked and wanted to take his hand away, but no matter how hard he tried, his palm seemed to be stuck, and he couldn't take it away at all. At this moment, David's body was like a bottomless pit, constantly absorbing the energy in Xian Yuanyan's body, and he needed the original surging energy in his body, which soon became like a trickling stream. Xian Yuanyan's body was also shrinking rapidly, and he soon turned into an old-fashioned look. Xian Yuanyan widened his eyes, looked at David in disbelief, opened his mouth, but found that he couldn't say a word. Soon, Xuan Yuanyan's energy disappeared, and along with the disappearance of energy, Xuan Yuanyan's breathing also stopped, until the moment Xuan Yuanyan lost consciousness, his eyes were still looking at David in shock. David absorbed Xian Yuanyan's energy and began to transform it into spiritual energy. The golden light that disappeared from his body slowly began to appear again. Guo Wei, who was on the side, saw that he had not moved for a long time, so he walked over and looked into the deep pit. But when Guo Wei just probed, a stream of light flashed. Guo Wei hurried back, and then he saw David standing in front of him with golden light all over his body, and in the deep pit, only Xuan Yuanyan's dry body was left. "You're actually an evil cultivator." Guo Wei glanced at it and immediately knew what was going on. Xuan Yuanyan's tragic state was obviously caused by someone absorbing the energy in his body.